The president's massive budget plan calling for deeper cuts, what the billionaire is calling for. It comes as the president's pardons are drawing heavy scrutiny, from the Chrisleys to reality TV stars convicted of fraud to floating a reprieve for the men convicted of a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. The backlash tonight, plus more than 2 inches of rain in 2 hours, the emergency rescues in San Antonio from flash floods. Israel's intense strikes on Gaza, now saying they killed a top Hamas leader, Mohammed Sinwar. He took over for his brother, who the IDF also killed. It comes amid chaos over distributing aid. What's next for SpaceX after the Starship tumbled out of control and broke up over the Indian Ocean? How a car crashed through a roof of this veteran center, and believe it or not, it's not the first time. The crypto controversy, the president pushing for less regulation of the markets. It comes as the president's businesses go big on crypto. Is it a conflict of interest? Good evening and welcome. Elon Musk, the other face of President Trump's full-court effort to shrink government spending by slashing jobs and closing programs, is tonight slamming the administration's new spending plan. Musk has been one of the president's top lieutenants, named as the head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. But he says in a new interview that the president's spending bill adds to the budget deficit, and questions whether the administration's big, beautiful bill, as the president calls it, can be both big and beautiful. President Trump facing backlash on multiple fronts tonight, including his latest use of the pardon power, granting a slew of new and controversial pardons. Gabe Gutierrez is covering it all for us at the White House.
He once bragged about using a chainsaw to break up the federal bureaucracy, but tonight Elon Musk is breaking with President Trump over his massive tax cut plan known as the Big Beautiful Bill.
I think a bill can be big or it could be beautiful. But I don't know if it could be both.
The bill, passed by the House, delivers on a slew of the president's campaign promises, including extending the Trump 2017 tax cuts, eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, and directing billions of dollars for the border wall. But Musk is now joining some GOP senators saying the plan does not cut enough spending.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly. Which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
The president argues not passing the bill would mean higher taxes.
We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. And tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country.
Meanwhile, the spotlight is growing on President Trump's pardons, with reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley released as early as tonight.
We're the Chrisleys, Todd and Julie Chrisley.
3 years after their convictions for tax evasion and bank fraud.
Your parents are going to be free and clean.
President Trump calling the Chrisleys' daughter Savannah from the Oval Office.
Well, they were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing.
The 27-year-old, a Trump supporter.
The president called me personally as I was walking into Sam's Club.
Who had criticized her parents' prosecution at the Republican National Convention.
Due to our public profile and conservative beliefs, they accused my parents of fraud.
The president now saying he'd consider pardoning the men convicted of a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer 5 years ago.
I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job.
Trump today also rejecting claims he's backed down on tariffs when asked about a new term reportedly used by some Wall Street analysts, TACO, short for Trump always chickens out.
I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. You call that chickening out? It's called negotiation.
More boxes, more options. Grainger has over 1,700 box types in stock and ready to help you pack, store, and ship everything. And you can count on Grainger to deliver your boxes fast. Count on Grainger.
Hey, let's circle back to the president's pardons. I understand he signed even more of them late today.
Yes, Lester, several, including former Republican New York Congressman Michael Grimm, who was convicted of tax fraud a decade ago. The president also commuted the sentence of Larry Hoover, a notorious Chicago gang leader who was serving multiple life sentences for crimes including murder from the 1970s. Hoover has said He's now a different person. Lester.
All right, Gabe, thank you. Also tonight, heavy rain caused major flash flooding in San Antonio, Texas. The streets were overrun, leaving some drivers stranded. Crews dispatched to rescue this driver, overwhelmed in waters from a swollen river. The city got more than 2 inches of rain today in 2 hours. The National Weather Service says another round of scattered thunderstorms could develop in that area later tonight. Now to the major development in the Mideast. Israel tonight announcing it has killed the top leader of Hamas during a military operation in Gaza. Richard Engel has late details for us.
After relaunching a punishing military offensive in Gaza, today Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu claimed a victory over Hamas, saying Israel confirmed it killed the group's latest leader, Mohammed Sinwar. He was killed, Israel says, in an airstrike on a hospital. Mohammed Sinwar took over Hamas's leadership from his brother Yahya, whose earlier assassination by Israeli forces was captured on video. Yahya Sinwar was considered the mastermind of the Hamas October 7th massacre. And tonight, Hamas is still holding more than 50 hostages in Gaza. Meanwhile, a controversial new U.S. and Israeli-backed operation has begun to distribute a limited amount of food into Gaza. But Israeli troops firing in the air to disperse hungry crowds expose the challenges. And today, a crowd broke into a warehouse storing aid. All while President Trump revealed he cautioned Netanyahu against striking Iran, the major backer of Hamas, while the U.S. and Iran are in the midst of nuclear talks.
I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment. It could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal. And if we can make a deal, I save a lot of lives.
Richard, back to the death of the Hamas leader. Could it have a major impact on efforts to defeat Hamas?
Not likely. While there's no doubt that Hamas has been badly damaged in this conflict, in the past, the group has been able to replace its top leaders without much difficulty. And given all of the death, destruction, hunger that there is in Gaza right now, Hamas has plenty of recruits. Lester.
Okay, Richard Engel, thank you. Now to an explosive moment during Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking trial. Combs' lawyers asking for a mistrial over a line of questioning by prosecutors. The judge swiftly denied that request. Jurors also heard from a stylist who testified he witnessed Combs assault and threaten his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Combs has denied all wrongdoing. Now to Arkansas, where a convicted murderer and ex-police chief is still on the run after escaping from prison Sunday. Officials say they're facing a number of challenges, including his law enforcement background and difficult terrain. Here's Priya Schrader.
Tonight, the close-knit community of Calico Rock, Arkansas, on alert with the search for Grant Hardin, a former police chief turned convicted killer and rapist, now in its third day.
When I heard about it, I just shut the windows and doors and put the pistol out on the coffee table and we were good.
Officials say they've expanded their search area, several agencies working around the clock, deploying canines and drones to scour the dense and rugged terrain surrounding the prison.
They've set up as many as 10 of these checkpoints around town where they're basically stopping every single car that drives by and asking the drivers if they've seen anything suspicious and also looking inside of the vehicle for any signs of Hardin.
There's a lot of forests, caves.
Rand Champion is with the Arkansas Department of Corrections.
There's plenty of hiding places. There are a number of abandoned, units, barns and sheds and homes and cars.
Police say Hardin escaped wearing a makeshift outfit designed to look like a corrections officer, captured in this surveillance photo, according to an affidavit that caused a corrections officer to open the gate and allow him to walk away from the prison. Hardin was convicted and sentenced to 30 years for the 2017 murder of James Appleton, a city worker who police say Hardin shot in the face in broad daylight. Hardin's DNA was then tied to an unsolved rape of a school teacher from 1997. So far, officials say they believe he's still in the area, but have no credible leads.
It really is a needle in a haystack, and that's why we're looking for just that one credible lead that will put us in the right direction.
I'm Kevin Hart, and this is season.
Yes, 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 yes. We back in the building with another podcast vlog, and this is Raw Dope Podcast Vlog, and I'm your host, Hand 5000. And my famous words that I like to say to everybody that tap in with me: good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, it's a good morning, man, for the convicts, and I guess a better morning for the GDs. Man, President Trump pardoned Larry Hoover. I wish I had my thing to do the hand claps. Larry Hoover's pardoned, but he won't be home today. He'll be released from federal custody to face the 200 years he had in Chicago for a 1973 murder. But the way Chicago works and how good that, Larry Hoover's got a team. I'm quite sure his family's prepared. He probably seek a bond in that case, but I think Larry Hoover will be home, in June. I think it's take him a couple weeks once he get transferred from, and then it just has to be a beautiful thing. Larry Hoover gonna walk out of ADX, y'all. Larry Hoover been at ADX over 20 some years, man, where you lock down 21 hours a day. Larry Hoover, 73 years old, man. 73 years old to get your freedom back, and he been locked up 40 years. So to get his freedom back is a beautiful thing, but we gonna dig into that. And also, we got Andrew and Tristan Tate. If you know me, you know I'm a fan of Andrew Tate. Take it or leave it. I am a huge fan of Andrew Tate. Him and Tristan was arrested in the United Kingdom on bait charges and a whole bunch of stuff they've been trying to get him. And also, we got day 11 recap of Diddy trial. And the Diddy team, Brian and them, asked for a mistrial because the prosecutor is playing with evidence. But if you just tapping in, please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. I'm going to add my Cash App up there, become a Super Chat member, or just drop something in the Cash App when you see it, man. Listen, man, we on. Larry Hoover home. And hey, wake and bake with me.
Crypto's important because if we don't do it,
This says crypto is important. I think crypto is important. I wish I'd invested in crypto years ago.
It's very popular.
The White House says Trump attended that dinner in his personal capacity and that his assets are held in a trust. Lester?
Garrett Haig, thank you. Now to our series, AI Revolution and the artificial intelligence creation of what are being called reporters at the Arizona Supreme Court. Computer-generated correspondence that may strike some as alarmingly convincing. Gotti Schwartz has more.
That like up there.
Okay, TikTok. Impression time. In a world full of deep fakes, it's Taylor Swift here.
Hold on a second.
What happens when the face of your official source of information isn't human, it's AI? The Arizona Supreme Court. Meet Victoria and Daniel, the official AI avatars for the Arizona Supreme Court.
Hey there. I'm Victoria, one of the Arizona Supreme Court's new AI generated court news reporter.
Avatar is one of my favorite movies, right? And I want y'all to know this, right? Please hit that notification button. Please hit that subscribe button. Drop a like. Leave a comment. But I want y'all to know Avatar was one of my favorite movies. And some of my favorite movies in life. If you kind of look at my space, you see Transformers. You see weird stuff, right? Out of all the weird stuff in the world that I got, right? It is very important that you understand technology. And technology been a big thing to me. Now, I'm not no computer whiz. I'm not no dude that can take a part of computer and put it together. Nah. I like it. I like it. I like to learn it. But technology was always to me two things as a kid growing up in the 80s. Star Wars, you know what I mean? Captain Kirk or whatever. It was different to me because they had computers. And I never seen one like in person. Like in person, 86, 80s. I never seen a fucking, unless it was in a hospital, but like they had computers. And then the Jetsons. Anybody watched the Jetsons cartoon? So I was like, the Jetsons had TVs on the wall before you ever seen a TV on the wall. Elroy had a hoverboard. I keep telling people that. He had a hoverboard. They've been riding around on shit. They had a robot and all this stuff in the 80s. Star Wars and stuff was created in the 60s, 70s, and 50s. So I was looking at that. What's good, Prophet? So I was looking at that like, hey, if Star Wars had computers, when we never even knew what a computer was, Elroy, I know people tripping on me. Elroy was my man. If you ever threw the cartoon, the Jetson, Elroy was my man. Elroy had everything that you could ask for. And that stuff was unheard of. I swear to by Allah, the first time I seen a computer in my life I mean, like a computer in the neighborhood where I lived at was my man Monze and his little brother Jamal and Tabitha and them. They had a computer where you could just go in and that shit was amazing to me because I didn't grow up with a computer. I know a lot of y'all rich and famous and y'all, boy, you never had a computer. Nigga, I'm 40 plus. So I didn't grow up with you just had computers in your house. I had a floor model TV and a VCR. Yeah, I had that in the house. Yeah, we all had a floor model TV, a VCR. That was the biggest thing. I ain't never had no computer. I'm talking 80s and 90s flow. So that was thing. So when certain movies came out like Avatar, Matrix, and certain these crazy movies, they would just grab my attention like goddamn cartoons and comic books used to. And it was just like super dope. So I'm like, yo, and now I see what technology at, what he talking about AI and that stuff. I've been saying that, bro. I'm like, bro, it's gonna be man versus machine, bro. I know y'all don't remember John Henry, bring that still on down, boy. But that was the first essence of the brain for us to know when John Henry was going against a train. When he was just saying, yo, he could work faster than machine. Nah, homie. Nah, homie. Now it's gonna be man versus machine. And the only thing how I think that we will win a war against a machine, and this is just me being geeked out, is that machines are computerized and they'll go off of certain things. You know what I mean? That's just me, though. You gotta get in the geek squad to know that machines work off of certain things. So if there'd be a gang of robots or something, they're like smart cars. They'll have to be charged up. You get what I'm saying? Real talk. If man fight machine, it won't be never no light at night. You would never be able to see at night because we will not let machines charge up. A robot or nothing can't. Your car, your smart car can't even run without being charged up, bro. It will go out. That's the only thing. You know what I mean? If the power's cut out, AI doesn't exist and it goes back because it has to go into a knowledgeable world. This is just me being geeked out. I'm gonna get back to my topics. It has to go to a knowledgeable world to be destroyed to come back to originality. Like we come up out of early year 2000, I mean, yeah, 100, 200, 300, all the way up to 2025, right? Do you think by year 3000 it's gonna be crazy? You know what I mean? Go in your phone right now and say, Siri, look up year 3000. How would it look in year 2050? Do that, it's a different look. So I feel like computers and AI, artificial intelligence, all that shit gotta have his day, gotta have his height, gotta have his time, and all of it will be destroyed because it's ran by electric. It's ran by power. So in order, the new world order will go through machines, and in order to get it back to the normal world, the machines will have to be destroyed. So we'll go back to those caveman times. I won't be living. You guys probably won't be living. Maybe the babies that's born today and next week will be living. Maybe those babies will be living and they'll see it, but me and you won't see it. We won't see it, but I believe the world is going to be built off of AI and all these computers and all this stuff. And then it has to be destroyed because it's ran by electric and power. And once they see that these machines are taking over the world and are controlling more than humanity can, that's a problem. And then but God's Allah, greatest creation, one of his greatest creations. Everything God created was great, but humanity, I believe in my heart, will not be defeated. Let's get back into it. Please hit that notification, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. But let's finish hearing this. But when we cooking today though, y'all. We cooking. I'm gonna put the Cash App up there. Donate if you want to. If not, or just become a super chat member.
An efficient way for us to get news out. Alberto Rodriguez is a public information officer for the court and helped design his digital coworkers. So traditional production obviously takes quite amount of manpower.
And how much time does it take for Victoria to do it here?
It takes minutes.
I gotta admit, when she says, I'm Victoria, a news reporter, like my human feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
As a news reporter.
Yeah.
Do you see this ever replacing like news reporters?
I don't think so. Arizona's Chief Justice Ann Timmer says it's important to note that everything you hear the avatars say is actually written by the justices themselves.
For years, we took it for granted that of course you trust the courts, of course you trust judges. We're doing our best, but
If people don't believe that, it doesn't matter.
However, there are a lot of people out there that don't trust AI.
That's true. But they have to remember this AI, at least that we're using, it's not generative.
The justices said that even if she didn't mean to violate the rules, her act.
While the avatars might become the most forward-facing example of AI in the legal system, just as Timmer points out, the law profession is already using AI every day for things like research to document review and analysis. I come here today a humble pro se.
All right.
One plaintiff in New York, even trying to use AI to argue his case before a skeptical appeals panel. Shut that off! But with more AI come concerns over instances of AI models citing cases that never existed, and potential bias and discrimination that's often found when tapping into large data sets.
I don't see if what your concern is, that, which is a valid one, that we'll use AI to start substituting for judgment. I don't think that will ever happen.
All ethical concerns in a new era that could end up before Arizona's high courts, decided by human justices, but disseminated by something else. Daddy Schwartz, NBC News, Phoenix, Arizona.
For better or worse, 100% me. In 60 seconds, another SpaceX booster explosion. What went wrong and what it means for the future of Elon Musk's space program. Plus, a dramatic confrontation between a driver and police officer that led to a shooting through the windshield.
At Preston Ford West, cars cost.
Now y'all just gotta see that when that man just said a shooting through the windshield, man, y'all should have seen this cop on top of this car shooting in this window. Ain't no how that man go for like real talk. But yeah, but let's get into it, man. I gave y'all a little news flash. I'm getting busy here. Let's talk about Hoover, the great man. It's stuff that we gotta talk about, man. We ain't here party. We gonna get into my man Diddy, but let's just talk more about this Larry Hoover situation. I'm kind of happy. It's a beautiful day.
He was once one of the most notorious gangsters in Chicago. Tonight, President Trump is commuting the federal sentence of gangster co-founder
Trump,
Larry
he like
Hoover.
go, yo. One thing I gotta say, hey, hey,
Erica, joke.
I'm an ex-convict. I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm an ex-convict. I'm gonna be honest. Yo, boy, Trump, he pardon people, bro. Hey, pardon people, bro. Hey, and he ain't waiting till he leave. I believe in that, nigga. Yay, Trump, but boy, letting dudes go, let young boy go too. You know what I mean? Pardon young boy too. So don't think it's just Larry Hoover, but come on, bro. The man been locked up all them years. Trump let him go, bro. Y'all don't like Trump, but Trump freed the men, yo. You know what I mean? Some people deserve to be in prison. I'm finally old enough and mature enough to say that. Some dudes are just stupid and they belongs in prison. But some do, but after 30, 40 years of being in this joint, bro, how much prison can you do? How much prison can you do? You know what I'm saying? Larry Hoover created something spiral out of control. Goddamn, the government creates stuff. People create stuff to spiral out of control all the time. You get what I'm saying? So I don't think that Larry Hoover should have just stay in jail for the right to die in jail. Man, 70-something years old, what he's gonna do? And man, I'm not saying that. Like, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? Straight up. What is he going to do? Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. Straight up. What is he going to do? There ain't no other way around it. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? You know what I mean? He ain't going to do nothing but get to love his family and grandkids.
Be released from federal prison, he still has a 200-year state sentence for which a parole board has already denied early release. In 1993, Hoover spoke to former CBS News Chicago reporter John Davis, and at that time, Hoover was 42 years old and had already served 20 years in prison.
I've done my time. I paid my debt to society.
That was Larry Hoover, more than 3 decades ago. At that time, the leader of the Gangster Disciples and convicted murderer told our John Davis he had a lot of time to think about ways to stop the gang violence on the streets of Chicago.
One teenager don't like the other teenager because the way he wears his hat. Because his ideology is different from his. A disciple don't like a vice lord. We all black people. There's no difference.
At that time, Hoover, also known as King Larry, admitted being part of a fragile gang truce in the city and organizing a protest over plans to close healthcare clinics in African-American neighborhoods. Ron Safer, the lead prosecutor in Hoover's federal trial, reacts to news Hoover's life sentence has been commuted by President Trump.
I was disappointed. I I do not
Man,
think
shut
that
up,
this
man.
is
What Wilson
an appropriate end to the Larry Hoover
They
story.
got no
at least
proof
the
of Larry Hoover
federal
killing
part of it.
nobody, bro. Like,
Safer
stop.
says Hoover was perhaps the most notorious criminal the state of Illinois has ever known.
He was convicted of running a continuing criminal enterprise that had approximately 30,000 members across 28 states, selling over $100 million worth of drugs in the state of Illinois alone each year. And he ran that entire operation with ruthless efficiency from prison, where he was serving a state sentence for double murder.
Safer also told us about Hoover being recorded, saying teenagers needed to sell drugs for his criminal organization. The recording was made a year after the gangster disciple leader was interviewed on CBS Chicago.
There was another tape where Larry Hoover said, "You have to share your drugs with these children." And I'm talking about 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, so that they can sell it and they can have something. And he said, make them know that with you, they are somebody, and without you, they are nobody.
Meantime, shortly after the commutation announcement, Hoover's son posted this picture on Instagram. That's a White House official holding a copy of the commutation. Hoover's attorneys say they're thrilled he's going to be released from federal custody, but again, he still has a 200-year sentence to serve for his crimes in Illinois. In the newsroom, CBS
Show,
News.
it's up to Chi-Town.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Larry Hoover was acquitted, and he's coming out of ADX, but now he's going to the Chicago facility. Larry Hoover on a yard in a division of correction in Chicago. It's like President Trump coming in the ghetto and got quarter waters and juices. Boy, when Larry Hoover going to yard, they put him straight on admit. If anybody in here that been locked up, as soon as Larry Hoover shackled up and walked through that jail, they putting him on lockup. Larry Hoover won't even see the compound. As soon as he come in the door, they putting him on compound. They putting him straight. They putting him straight on lockup. They putting him straight on lockup, bro. You know what I mean? They putting him straight on lockup. They putting him straight on lockup, bro. Cause soon as he hit the yard, it's like people sing God. Them GD kids, it's like they sing God. Men of all ages, like they sing God when Larry Hoover walk on the yard in Chicago, Illinois, DOC. When he get in the division of correction, it's like people sing God. They pray to this man on Hoover. You heard him on BD, on David, on King David. That them dudes in them 28 states, they say that the gang spread it out 28 different places where they pray to Hoover, bro. Some of these kids is involved in this gang, love the gang so much that he pray to Hoover. I'm talking about my Ford and Chrysler. Yeah, so walking on the yard is hard, bro. It's like seeing your favorite person. Man, they can't do it. And Illinois is already saying they ain't doing no early release on the dude, but his family coming with the lawyers like, what y'all want to do? What y'all want to do? What y'all want to do, bro? Y'all got in mind 200 years in 1973. Come on, 83, 93, 03, 13, and it's 25. Right now, bro, he almost been locked up 50 years, bro. He's 74 years old. 73, 4 years old. He been locked up almost 50 years, bro. Man, been locked up a long time. Let me see how many years he been cost. I don't want to be wrong. How long has Larry Hoover been incarcerated? Larry Hoover been locked up since 1973, man. Man, I don't give a... Man, listen, all jokes aside, y'all. 1973. Do the math with me. Put up 83, right? A new era. 93, a new era. 03, new era. 2013, new era. 2023, Man been locked up 52 motherfucking years, bro. 52 years. What more can he do? 52 years. Y'all keep it real with me, yo. Y'all just keep it real with me. Do y'all think the man deserves his freedom at 74 years old and locked up his whole 50 years? Probably everybody in this chat right now ain't even been living 50 years. Man got that. The man got however old you is shitting in the prison toilet. 52 years. Some of y'all mothers just 52 years old, bro. Like 52 years. And I'm saying, come on, Illinois. And we're not giving early parole. How for somebody been locked up since the 70s? Like your kids don't even want to hear stories from the 1900s no more. We're 25 years removed away from the 1900s. And a man like that been locked up since the 70s. Since the 70s. The 1900s had a long time ago. And he's still in there, man. Since the last time the Knicks won. Man, you better not let my cousin Porch Prophet hear you say that. The last time the Knicks won. Yeah, but I'm gonna get back into some more of these Larry Hoover clips. Man, President Trump, he a dog motherfucker, boy. I knew he was gonna do. Knew he was gonna do it though. I knew when Trump got back in office, he was gonna pardon Larry. But Larry had so much to deal with. And Larry been trying to get that state time back. But congratulations to Mr. Hoover and his family, man. I'm proud.
Hoover is currently at the notorious Supermax prison in Colorado. His family hasn't been able to speak with him today to get his reaction to his commutation. Hoover still faces the remainder of a state prison sentence for murder, but his family is hoping for clemency from Governor Pritzker.
It's overwhelming. It's a long time coming, and we just want to hope it goes all the way through.
The wife and son of Larry Hoover, after his 6 federal life sentences, were commuted by President Trump.
He deserves redemption. He deserves a second chance at being a part of this community. And he could be a benefit to this community if they want him to be a benefit to this community.
Hoover co-founded the Chicago Gangster Disciples, and while behind bars for a 1973 murder, federal prosecutors say he continued to run the gang's prolific multi-state drug operations.
I
don't believe that shit.
There was going to be a killing. There was a killing.
Ron Safer was the lead federal prosecutor who secured Hoover's 1997 conviction for running a criminal enterprise behind bars.
I believe in redemption, but there are some crimes that are so horrific that they deserve the punishment to the full extent of the law.
As years passed, Hoover's case drew increasing attention, including from artists like Kanye West and Chance the Rapper.
And I gotta remind y'all that he was a political prisoner.
He is being held because he is a symbol, not because he needs further incarceration or he hasn't been rehabilitated.
The president's commutation only applies to Hoover's federal sentence. He still faces state prison time for which he's eligible for parole. Governor J.B. Pritzker can also offer clemency.
We know that Governor Pritzker believes in rehabilitation, redemption, and transformation, and he's done all of that.
A governor's spokesperson declined to comment on Hoover's case, but said inmates seeking parole or clemency must petition the Illinois Prisoner Review Board, which makes parole decisions and issues recommendations to the governor regarding clemency.
Huge. The old man should get that. The old man should get that. But the Larry Hoover man should get that. They saying though, that people was basically saying though,
President Trump.
People say,
Developing tonight, President Trump commutes the federal life sentences of a notorious Chicago gang leader.
Larry Hoover co-founded the Gangster Disciples and has spent decades in prison. But even with this decision by the president, it's unlikely he will get out of prison anytime soon.
Good morning, Candy Cane.
To explain why.
And Joe Necker, the Free Larry Hoover movement has been loud for a number of years, and while this is a victory for Larry Hoover's federal case, he still faces what amounts to a life sentence for a 1973 state murder conviction. So this move from the president does not grant Hoover his freedom.
The White House official posed for this picture with Larry Hoover's federal commutation signed by President Donald Trump.
He deserves to have redemption. He did 52 years.
Hoover's family celebrated the news on social media.
We are having
I'm
a
happy
great
for the
day,
brother
everybody.
too, yo. I'm really happy for him.
paid my debt to society.
You don't
CBS
understand.
Chicago
Shit, let me tell you
reporter
something.
John Davis spoke to
Y'all don't understand, right? And I know a lot of people might be in the chat, just be, straight people, But you don't understand, bro. Jay-Z had a verse. He said, he said, we know the hustlers that they love it. You know the hustlers that they love it. You know what I mean? Just to see one of us make it, bro. Just to see a mother man come up out of jail after 52 years, man. I don't give a fuck what he did. He didn't bother no children. He wasn't vaping no women. It was just a war and a crime thing. I think Mr. Larry Hoover did his time and he deserves his freedom. I mean, all y'all naysayers and this and that. And then he probably can save Chicago. He probably got that much. And it's a two-way street. We got some dudes, gang members don't give two fucks about Larry Hoover. You know what I mean? And you got some people that just gonna cry. Like, I would like to see the reaction just on the yard with bro. You get what I'm saying? Oh man, gifts coming, gifts coming, gifts coming, gifts coming, gifts coming. Oh, how many gifts you gonna send, girl? You want to be about number, huh? You must want my phone number or something, huh? Sending me hearts like that first thing in the morning, sweetheart. Sending me hearts in the morning like that. Yes.
At the time, the notorious co-founder of Chicago's Gangster Disciples had already served 20 years for his 1973 state murder conviction.
It can harden you, or it can make you think. And I felt.
But just a year after this interview, Hoover was sentenced to consecutive federal life sentences for running his criminal enterprise from prison. Ron Safer was the federal prosecutor.
We tape recorded him while in prison, ordering.
He keeps saying, listen, we can beat. But my boys, man, they got my boys caught up again. And I know some people ain't gonna like this, but that's my motherfucking man, boy Andrew Tate. Boy Andrew, you know what I mean? Andrew and his brother have got arrested. Andrew and his brother, because they always harassing the
British
boys.
government has charged
Here we go.
British government has charged Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan with rape and human trafficking, among other charges. The BBC reports the Crown Prosecution Service filed the charges after receiving new evidence against the far-right influencer brothers from a regional police station. Andrew Tate faces 10 charges connected to 3 alleged victims, while Tristan faces 11 charges connected to 1 alleged victim, on allegations dating back between 2012 and 2015, according to reports. The brothers have previously rejected the UK allegations, saying they are, quote, very innocent men. Despite also facing similar charges in their country of residence, Romania, the British-American brothers were allowed to return to the United States in February. At the time, Andrew said of the charges against them,
"We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We don't have to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever."
Reports say they have since returned to Romania, where they face charges of sex with a minor and trafficking. They both deny the allegations. According to the BBC, those charges will be handled after the criminal cases are concluded in Romania. For Inside Edition Digital.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. You know, Andrew Tate, man, I like his stance on manhood.
There's nothing you cannot.
No, I'm just be honest. I like his stance on manhood. You know what I'm saying? I like his stance on life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the type stuff, you know, Andrew, you know, kicking, bro, be real. You know what I mean? Just from a man standpoint, you know what I'm saying? He be keeping it a buck. I don't know what he doing over there. You know what I mean? But as far as like, I think they mad at him because he teaches strength, no weakness. You know what I mean? He teaches power is the key. And they've been harassing him and his brother for a while now. Romania, they've been going through it.
First time that they have authorized charges of rape and human trafficking against Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan. Between the two of them, they are accused of 21 offences, And we learned from the CPS today that the charges were leveled against them last year as a result of arrest warrants executed by Bedfordshire police. The Tate brothers, with millions of social media followers for their brand of toxic masculinity, are of course in Romania facing an array of charges there that they deny. They are also dual UK-US citizens, and senior figures within the Trump administration helped them to fly to Florida in February, where they spent about a month before voluntarily returning to Romania. Joining me now live on the program is James Bloodworth, a journalist and the author of Lost Boys, a personal journey through the manosphere. Mr. Bloodworth, thanks very much for being on the program tonight. We obviously are not going to dwell on the specifics of the case that is being built against Tristan and Andrew Tate here in the UK. But I am interested to understand where the trajectory of this goes. They're facing charges in Romania. They're now facing charges in the UK. Is the UK going to have to wait for the Romanian process to finish before it stands any chance of them coming back to the UK to face trial here?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on. Yes, so what you've said is correct. The process will have to play out in Romania first before they then presumably they're extradited to the UK to face the charges here. So we don't know how long the thing in Romania has been going on for several years now. It seems likely it will conclude this year. It seems likely there will be the trial this year. But again, it's been going on. This has been going on since 2022. So we don't know. And then only after that, though, will they face the 21. Have to kind of account for the 21 charges in the UK.
But how complicating a factor is it that they have American passports? And apparently a Trump administration that at levels close to President Trump seemed more than willing to assist them when they first left Romania and headed to Florida.
Yeah, so there are links between the Tate brothers and the Trump administration. So, I mean, Trump, the Tate brothers were repatriated for a while to the US. So they basically were allowed to go to the US for I think it was a month, and now they've returned to Romania. And partly that seems to have been facilitated by Trump's special envoy, who was reported to have had a conversation with Russia's foreign minister at the Munich Security Conference of all places. So there does seem to be that facilitation. But then the Tate brothers also did go back to Romania. So I don't think it's unlikely they'll try and completely escape justice, especially as now there's a case ongoing in Romania and the UK as well. And I think the scale of the charges, I think they genuinely also believe that they're going to get off, that they're going to be found innocent for this in Romania. They seem, obviously there's the bluster, which is all part of the persona, but I actually think the fact that they did return to Romania, it would seem that they do believe that they're actually going to get off on the things they're accused of.
I'm interested in the bluster from the work that you've done on your book, Lost Boys, A Personal Journey Through the Manosphere. Do you think they relish the chance to go through these legal processes, that actually they're not afraid of these legal processes, particularly because it all helps to build the brand?
I mean, to an extent, I wouldn't say they relish the level it's got to now. I mean, because what they're having to do is they're having to keep up that persona, because that is the business model essentially. So a lot of these, so the Tates in particular, but a lot of the manosphere influencers, there's very much the business model is built on this like telegenic kind of charisma and bombastic kind of persona, hypermasculinity, presenting this idea of never being phased, of never kind of being weak or quote unquote unmanly or effeminate, and the way they perform in front of the cameras kind of they have to play up to that essentially. But you do kind of see, especially Tristan, you do kind of see sometimes when they don't think the cameras are rolling, or after a press conference, you do sometimes see Tristan especially looking, what I would say is gaunt, and the way I would describe it is gaunt and worried. I don't think that the actual court cases they relish. I think, controversy they relish, but I'm not sure they'll relish when these cases actually come to court in Romania initially. I don't think they'll be relishing that, for instance. I I think that's not what they bargained for.
And can I ask you just briefly one more question about their time in the United States? It seemed to me that there was a tension between whatever had happened at senior levels in Washington, D.C. and within the Trump administration to help them get to Florida, and then the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who looked at this situation and said, I don't want them in the Sunshine State. There's definitely tension within Republican circles about them.
Yes, there is. And funny, there is in the manosphere as well. So you also have kind of more conservative commentators, Jordan Peterson, for example, who they may not object to some of the things that the Tates say, but they really find this, their model of conservatism is really opposed to this kind of what they see as the sleaziness of people like the Tates and this worship of kind of money. And traditional conservatism, as embodied maybe by someone like Ron DeSantis, someone who I vehemently disagree with about a whole bunch of things, someone like that is still kind of repulsed at the kind of sleaziness of this kind of lifestyle the Tates present and stuff. It is kind of anathema to someone like that. I find that very interesting. And that split goes right through, I think, the Trump administration. You do have these traditional conservatives, even evangelicals are part of that coalition. But then you also have people who seem to worship money and crypto and want to present these, like the Tates, present this very ostentatious, quite sleazy kind of lifestyle.
It's fascinating. James Bloodworth, thank you so much for being on the program tonight. James Bloodworth, journalist and author of Lost Book.
Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. So, Andrew Tate and his brother, if you don't know, they got a massive empire. And, they really talk masculinity. You know what I'm saying? They really believe in man law. You know what I mean? And, they rich. I don't think they doing that underage stuff. But, they're fighting it. They're getting out on bail, and they're not backing down from the court system. And you know what I mean? These allegations that's brought up, I don't know how to get caught up. But I listen to a lot of Andrew Tate stuff, so I knew that he had the charges. I thought they went away. My understanding, they supposed to beat the charges, and then the British brought them back up. Like they railroad them. They don't like them. They do not like them boys, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Andrew, he built for it. Tristan, I ain't gonna say nothing at all about Tristan. Tristan, he tough. You know what I mean? But I just don't think. I think he 85%. But his brother 100. You can look at them. You can see them. You can see Andrew ain't budging. And you can see Tristan, you know what I mean? What's the word they look for? You can see him remorseful. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they did it or dumb. He just remorseful that they going through all this. He wants to talk his masculinity. He wants to talk his stuff. He wants to have a good time, live on compounds, make millions of dollars. They billionaires. That's what he wants to do. He don't want to be caught up in the TV and caught up in this ignorant stuff that they got him alleged of. So I could see the difference in the two brothers straight up. You know what I mean? Yeah, couldn't miss the message. Yeah, so he just looking different. Yeah, you all over the internet. Yo, my man said you couldn't miss the message. Definitely good message. He definitely talks some gangster stuff. So I got to get into my man Diddy. So yesterday, Diddy.
The Sean Diddy Combs federal racketeering and sex trafficking trial took quite a turn today.
Yeah.
Celebrity stylist Deontay Nash testified that the music mogul allegedly beat his former girlfriend Cassandra Ventura until she
Yo, we are live on the courthouse steps, just to let y'all know. I'm not in my mom's basement, right? With the wall painted gray. We are live on the steps. It is a miserable, damp New York day. Shout out to Mel, watching the world, for loaning me his umbrella so I could actually go live and bring y'all the truth. Okay, so what's going on? I'm back. So anyway, y'all, let's get into this. What's going on? Diddy wants everybody's testimony thrown out. It's actually really, really shocking, appalling, but actually kind of silly that Diddy wants everybody's money thrown. He wants everybody's testimony thrown out. I'm not joking. He started with Dr. Hughes. Then he wants Cassie's testimony thrown out. Then he wants Kid Cudi's testimony thrown out. Then he wants Capricorn Clark's testimony thrown out. Listen, again, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we actually need to talk about this. A lot of Diddy supporters said they couldn't support the RICO. A lot of people said they couldn't support the crime. A lot of people said it's just domestic violence. But I think Diddy's proven time and time again that he cannot win this case on the facts. So he needs to win it by trial by ambush. Tell me what innocent man that is guilty of a RICO needs everybody's testimony throughout. Now, let me just be real. It's not going to happen because Diddy's team is also, I feel like they're looking the way things hit on social media, and then they're coming and they're like, objection, objection, objection. But a lot of that testimony, they should have objected in that real time. Let's talk about Capricorn Clark. He wants everything thrown out about the kidnapping. Hey, how are you? Good morning. Hey, SLW, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I ran out the house to bring y'all the news. Let's see if I can make it through. So listen, so the Capricorn Clark, he wants the kidnapping thrown out. He wants the part about saying he was going to murk her thrown out. He wants the abuse thrown out. He wants what she saw beating Cassie. Kid Cudi. He wants Kid Cudi's entire testimony thrown out about when he met, what he said, and also what Kid Cudi knew that Diddy was going to do. Also, the way Kid Cudi thought that Diddy was going to murk him. Cassie's testimony. He wants Cassie's testimony thrown out about the abuse and about the fact that she couldn't leave. Also, Deontay, he just testified. He wants Deontay's testimony thrown out. Y'all, what's going on in Diddy land? Let me tell y'all something. This is some desperate answers. When you can't win on the facts, you will win on trying to silence people. But to me, this is just a holdover from the way Diddy is. Diddy has made a career out of silencing people. Now, before he was using, according to some people, guns, he was using guns, he was using whatever. Now Diddy has graduated and he is no longer silencing people with guns or guns. He is now using his legal team. Imagine paying at this point almost $15 to $17 million, and all you can do is say, I want everybody's testimony thrown out. Now, let me tell you something. I was in the court yesterday. Judge Aaron is tired of Diddy's team and tired of Diddy's team's games. Baby, it was the cross they're going to pick up with Deontay. They told him that they would be done by 4. Judge Aaron went because he's very respectful to the jury and very accommodating to the defense. I think a little bit too accommodating because they be playing in his face. Cass Forever said, good morning, gorgeous. I'm in Puerto Rico now and the beaches have an oil spill. What? Oh, no. Listen. So Judge Aaron said, listen, if you think they're like, he's like, do you think this is going to run over? He likes things running, like a finely tuned clock. He was like, yo, do you think things are going to run over? They're like, no, Your Honor, we'll be finished with this witness. Deontay Nash, Diddy got bodied by a cutie patootie. We'll get into his testimony in a second. I had stuff to do yesterday, so we had to stop that live. But don't worry, I'll be back talking about everything tonight. We're going to have several lives. We're just going to keep going. It's going to be a telethon, a marathon.
See, I like her. I like her little breakdown. She been in the courtroom. She break it down a little bit. So they, basically they saying, from the reporters that's inside of the court, they saying it's looking ugly on Diddy's behalf. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know, Diddy. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it's day 12 today, but phew. That's what long crime guy say.
Former girlfriend Cassandra Ventura, until she bled, controlled every aspect of her life and even made chilling threats. He even testified he jumped in and tried to stop one of these attacks. And by the way, that's only part of the testimony from today. There was a lot more we got to get into. I'm going to be breaking it down with our law and crime reporter Elizabeth Milner, who is inside that courtroom for every minute of the action. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Everybody to see another law and crime legal alert. You received Depo-Provera birth control shots and were later diagnosed with a brain or spinal tumor called meningioma. You may be eligible for a lawsuit. By the way, this was brought up during our live show on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I think this was brought up by Ashley Banfield quite well. That Nash might be the only person who's testified so far that he actually intervened in the alleged abuse of Sean Combs.
We're going to get into that, but that is definitely something to make note of. And by the way, he's not the only person who testified. We heard a lot of testimony regarding the circumstances of Kid Cudi's testimony from last week. Remember that? Kid Cudi testified that he was a victim of his house being broken into, his car being set on fire, that he had been dating Cassandra Ventura, seemingly during this breakup that she had with Sean Combs, that he was the victim of retaliation at the hands of Sean Combs. And this is all important for the racketeering charge, right? The more that the prosecution can make the point that Combs was this essential mafia boss, that he was heading up this criminal enterprise that was involved in a whole series of crimes, that's how you get to racketeering. A criminal enterprise that has all of these underlying crimes: forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, sex trafficking. Kid Cudi, pivotal witness for what I would say is multiple predicate crimes. And then we heard from officials today regarding these specific events surrounding Kid Cudi. So we have a lot to get into, a lot of dramatic testimony. For that, I want to bring on Long Crimes reporter Elizabeth Milner, who has been inside that courtroom every day of trial. Elizabeth, so good to see you. Thanks for coming here on set.
I know, I'm in studio today. Can you believe it?
I love it. I always see you across my
Right.
I'm happy to have you here.
Yes.
Now, before we even get into the testimony today, including of Deontay Nash, there was something that happened before the jury was even brought in, before testimony even began. What happened?
Yeah, so I feel like some of the most interesting things that happen in this trial are always the arguments outside of the presence of the jury. That's really when you see the attorneys in action, and really, honestly, when they're showing kind of their personality more, not playing it up so much to the jury. And so there was kind of a big ruling that was made outside of the jury presence before testimony had started today, and it regarded Kid Cudi. So there was this defense motion that they were trying to strike this last little bit of testimony where Kid Cudi essentially implied that he had believed that he was lying about having anything to do with the Molotov cocktail that was lodged into his car, having anything to do with the break-ins in his home. And so there was this moment at the Soho House where they had a meeting, they met up, they shook hands. The prosecution had asked Kid Cudi, what did you make of just this meetup? And what did you think that Diddy was implying when he had said that he didn't know what he was talking about when he was asked straight up just about the Molotov cocktail, and that Kid Cudi had believed that Diddy was lying about this. And it was kind of a moment towards the end of his testimony, because this was a moment that we got to at the redirect. So this was after the cross-examination, where a lot of people were just like, oh, wow. So he definitely believes it. Was kind of another aha moment, if you will. And so the defense objected to this. The defense wanted this little piece that Kid Cudi was talking about just struck from the record. They didn't want this to go to the transcript when the jury goes into deliberation. And so the judge actually denied the defense's motion. And he had said that the door was actually opened for this line of questioning, for this type of response under the cross-examination. And so that was a big ruling that he had made earlier this morning.
Little inside baseball, as much as they tell a jury to disregard a comment, once it's made, you can't ring the bell. It's very hard to tell a jury not to consider that. Which, by the way, we have something to talk about when it comes to a specific piece of
fireman, shorty. Text you this.
Disregard. We'll get to that in a minute. But we had Officer Christopher Ignacio of the LAPD testify, and he was the one who responded to the alleged break-in at Kid Cudi's home. And this is somebody who's a veteran. So he'd been with the department about 16 years. When he responded to Kid Cudi's home, what was that response like?
Yeah, so this response happened on December 22nd of 2011. This is a couple days before Christmas, around the holiday time. And so he was responding to a home up in the Hollywood Hills. The address was an address we were all very familiar with. Why? Because it was Kid Cudi's address. So he said that he was dispatched around 8:20 in the morning about a possible suspect stare down. And Ignacio had said that he had responded with police lights, with sirens, just kind of the whole shebang. And so then we see an exhibit photo of Kid Cudi's front door. So then we know, of course, he had been responding to Kid Cudi's house. And Officer Ignacio was explaining that the neighborhood that Kid Cudi had lived in at the time was kind of situated above the Hollywood Hills. It has narrow views and kind of windy roads. But he said that he had noticed a black Escalade. And that to me really stuck out, because this is kind of towards the beginning of his testimony. That stuck out to me because yesterday when Capricorn Clark was testifying, she testified that Diddy, Ruben, Diddy security guard, and Capricorn Clark all went to Kid Cudi's home in what? A black Escalade, and that they proceeded to even chase down Kid Cudi when he had been responding to this break-in that had happened at his home. But Officer Ignacio, while he testified today, said that he didn't notice any of the passengers inside the vehicle because the windows were heavily tinted, kind of like a limo would be tinted, just very dark, so he couldn't see inside. But he said that he did catch a license plate number, and this license plate was for 6LKN013. He said he didn't pull the car over at this particular time because there was no crime at the time. But then he starts to kind of get into just what had happened once he's on Kid Cudi's property, that his partner jumped over a fence, let him in. He noticed the door was open, but no one was home. Then he had noticed some unwrapped gifts, which I thought was pretty interesting because Kid Cudi had testified that these gifts were wrapped when he was testifying last week, that these gifts were wrapped. And then when he came home, that these gifts were unwrapped. They were in the kitchen area. And then more detectives kind of arrived. They searched the area. But I think one thing that was pretty interesting that stood out to me during Christopher Ignacio's testimony is that he didn't mention the dog. And I think the dog was kind of a big thing, according to Kid Cudi, because Kid Cudi had explained that he normally lets his dog kind of roam around. However, when he returned home for this break-in, that his dog was locked in the bathroom, and his dog was jumpy and nervous after this incident. And so that was one point that just wasn't discussed today during testimony, which I found pretty interesting. So as far as Officer Ignacio, he had said that they had exited the home and noticed that same black Escalade coming back down the hill. It was driving a lot slower, around 10 to 15 miles per hour, which I think also kind of goes to Capricorn Clark's testimony, right? Because she was explaining that while in that Escalade with Diddy and with Ruben, the security guard, that they had chased down Kid Cudi once they saw that he was coming back down to his home. And I think this kind of helped verify a little bit that possibly maybe this did happen. And obviously during the cross, there was kind of holes poked into that specific aspect. But later, Kid Cudi arrived to the home. Officer Ignacio and the cross kind of explained that Kid Cudi was pretty flustered
Man,
this incident.
hold up, Kenny. Hold up. Please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. Let me read. All stalkers do these things. Said me at work watching dude sit in his basement smoking weed, listening to politics. Crazy. You get what I'm saying? Oh man. Well, thank you for sitting at work watching me talk politics, my man. You feel me, my man? Fuck is you talking about?
Where there were two big moments. One, that this was a trespass report. So it wasn't reported as a burglary. It wasn't reported as a robbery. It was just simple trespassing. But he said that he entered this license plate of the black Escalade into the system. So
yeah,
then we see an exhibit photo, and this is where the direct examination kind of ends. We see this DMV vehicle registration information for that same license plate number that I had just said, and it was registered not to Sean Combs particularly, not to Capricorn Clark, not to Ruben, but it was registered actually to Bad Boy Production.
Shout out to everybody that's watching us that already tapped in the clock. You ain't the only one watching. My man Wallow watching from work. Versus watching from work. You know what I mean? I go to work at 12.
Particularly when you're talking about a racket.
You know what I mean? Viking.
You can't do it alone. The allegation is that he used his associates
Lord
to facilitate crimes and cover.
Hit that like button though.
That's registered to Bad Boy at the scene of a break-in, burglary, trespassing, what do you want to call it, that corroborates Kid Cudi's account and makes this a lot more digestible for the jury. So it's a big, big moment. And by the way, Capricorn Clark being in that car goes to the kidnapping, which is one of the predicate crimes that the prosecution is hoping to prove in order to convict Sean Combs of racketeering conspiracy. So obviously a big witness, Mr. Ignacio. The cross-examination by the defense was interesting. Talk to us about who conducted the cross and where exactly were they going? What did they say?
Oh, yeah, well, who conducted the cross? It was none other than Brian Steele himself. So he was really kind of back in his element, really cross-examining Christopher Ignacio. And so right off the bat, Brian Steele goes in and is like, well, this incident happened 13 and a half years ago. You need your memory refreshed, right? And Officer Ignacio responds, yes. This case had no value to you until you appeared in court. Officer Ignacio agreed. And then later they kind of talk about the report, that the report was made by his partner, which Ignacio kind of verified. So he still was coming off just a little bit aggressive during this cross-examination, or maybe he was just truly in his element, kind of coming off super confident while cross-examining this police officer. And so then we get into a map of Kid Cudi's home. And this is kind of like a generic Google map exhibit. And I think it was interesting that the defense was kind of trying to point out just where Kid Cudi's home lied in the Hollywood Hills, just as far as the route that people would take, kind of implying that maybe this Escalade just got caught at a dead end. There were a lot of dead ends over there, according to the defense. And so I think the defense was definitely trying to play up that it's possible that this black Escalade, or who might have allegedly been inside this car, caught at a dead end, and maybe that's the reason that he had seen the black Escalade once again. But yeah,
which, by the way, is something to say.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So a car registered to Sean Combs. Oh, it wasn't stopped there. It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened to be
in the
at
neighborhood
Kid Cudi's home.
This time.
Yes, exactly. Maybe got caught at a dead end. And then it was interesting too, because even when Brian Steele was on the stand, he was like, "Did you see a black Porsche?" Because he calls a Porsche next to an Escalade. And Ignacio responds, "I don't remember. Did you see a car chase? Or you didn't see a car chase, did you?" And Ignacio responded, "No, he didn't." He asked if a gun was involved. Would you have included that in your report? Ignacio responded, "Yes."
Bro?
"No one told you about a firearm." And Ignacio responded, "True. The homeowner
What's
didn't mention a gun. The owner."
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? I've been missing y'all in the morning, but I said, man, before I get on my route this morning, you know what I'm saying? I gotta go to York. I gotta go to York. Real quick. I go to York, PA. You know what I mean? I gotta go pick up 2 cars. I'm gonna get on the road about 12 o'clock. Be back in town. Be back in across state lines about 4. You know, that's how it goes. But we covering Larry Hoover. For anybody that's just tapping in, Larry Hoover was giving clemency. When you usually giving clemency, you walk out of jail, your family's out there waiting for you. But he's giving clemency to be sentenced to go finish out his, because you know Larry Hoover was doing 200 years and he got transferred to the feds. You feel what I'm saying? The feds convicted him and they transferred him because he had more time in the feds than he had with the state. So the state just sent him to the feds. But I know one thing that Larry Hoover probably know was a big mistake years ago was when he went for that. But state of Illinois played games, because I feel like usually when you get locked up and you got like a fed in the state case and you doing the state case first, usually the state would, you know, parole you to the fed case and go ahead, man. You got 6 life sentences. Give them parole and send them out of there. You know what I mean? That's one less headache we got worried about. But in his case, they still want him to serve out the sentence. In this case, they still want him to serve out the sentence. So he got 52 years in on a life sentence. It's up to the governor of Chicago now, and then their family can get their hands on the governor. Not literally mean like get their hands on the governor, like have a dinner, but they can advocate hard in the city. So now Larry Hoover's in the hands of where he come from. He's not a U.S. government inmate anymore. He don't have nothing to do with the government. He got clemency. Gave the 6 life sentences back. That's over with. That part of his life is over. He can put that behind him. Now he's going into the Illinois prison system, whereas though the parole board, you know, got their hands on him, the governor got their hands on him. So it could be different things said and, you know, mix and match on that level. So with that being said, he's probably now in transit. He's probably He's probably touching Chicago, because you know Colorado ain't too far from Chicago, but he probably he's probably touching Chicago. He's got to get out of there. He's no longer the bureau, the BOP, Bureaus of Prison, has nothing else to do with Larry Hoover. He's giving clemency. He must immediately be released. So I'm quite sure news flashes and everything, and now because it's federal, right? Because it's federal, we will finally after all these years, see the old man without being in pictures, because when he touched down, when Larry Hoover touched down in Chicago, the camera's gonna be everywhere. When he gets to that court, they probably move him late at night or something. You know what I mean? They probably move him late at night, but man, them cameras going in there. His people couldn't see him physically. They lined up with the visiting list. Like, it's a lot going on. It's pandemonium in the jail right now. I'm telling you. That's Larry Hoover, bro. It's pandemonium in the jail. That's like for everybody that believe in Jesus. Isa Wale Salam, may peace and blessings be upon him. It's just like him walking in the jail or walking on the streets. You know what I mean? Just imagine somebody like that walking on the street. You know what I mean? That's like Michael Jackson. You know, may he rest in peace. But that's like Michael Jackson walking out the graveyard, and everybody know Michael Jackson have served his death sentence, and he's going to be transferred to a hospital because he's been dead for too long. Yo, you know what I mean? People gonna be at that hospital. You know what I mean? Because you know the U.S. government doesn't allow no type of media, no type of pictures. Larry Hoover going for it. They going for it, bro. And because he with the state now, you know what I mean? He get those different visits now. Man, he get to hug his wife, man. You know, he get to do different things, man, that we take for granted. But also, he's in his state. And I think the state of Illinois should give him a chance. And on top of that, so many people going to advocate with him. And if the state of Illinois and those that's in powerful places really understand life and the way that it goes, they should free Larry Hoover under conditions. They should free Larry Hoover on conditions that maybe they could stop the violence, at least when the GD's in. You get what I'm saying? If you got any problem, man, it's got to stop. We got to clean up the community. That might give a big truce in Chicago with the violence. But we have to ask ourselves, do Chicago want that? Do the state of Chicago want a peace? Do they want the violence to stop? Because if they did, you know, they will give this man an opportunity. 74 years old is old. You know what I mean? You're an older man, but 74 years old is not the end of your life. And just because of who Larry Hoover is, I don't think money's going to be an issue. He's going to come out like some of the great men that was allowed to get out of prison. Mr. Rudy Williams, Peanut King, you know, legendary dudes all across the world. Shout out to Unique, you know, Mecca Audio, you know what I'm saying? Like, them dudes did a lot of time in prison and coming back home and, you know, telling their story. Goody, you know what I mean? I heard he was released from prison. A lot of dudes coming home, man, and they have those stories. So, with dudes like Larry Hoover, who has a celebrity name, he's just about in the streets. He's just as big as Michael Jackson is in the industry. He'll make people will pay him over and over and over to talk to him. People will pay to him, man. 52 years in prison. It's just a story. If I interview him, I don't ever even want to talk about the GD shit. That'd be part 2. I have to pay him for a part 2. I just want to talk about 52 years being locked up this long in prison and living through it. It's just an immaculate story to me. 52 years without, you know, no woman. 52 years, your whole son grown. You know what I mean? Your son's grown, bro. Like, God Almighty, all those years in prison. All those years in prison, bro. All those years in prison. Because they said you were the creator of a game, which is, you know, you never said that you wasn't. So we could go with that narrative and be like, yo, he ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but you know, to be in jail this fucking long, man. Like, come on, Larry. Man. State of Illinois, I hope they do the right thing. 74 years old, 52 years. What more do you want? Let's get a little bit back into this Diddy thing.
That the liquid was gasoline, and that they had requested fingerprints on both the bottle and the lighter, but they didn't take fingerprints on the scene. LAPD actually did. So investigator Lance Jimenez, he works for LAFD. LAPD was the one who had taken the fingerprints.
He did 22 years more.
Interesting, he had said that the victim in this case the victim being Kid Cudi, had someone do fingerprints after the break-in that he had at his home. And that was just a couple weeks earlier. He submitted this fingerprint card over to officials, and the fingerprint cards were destroyed, actually. And the investigator Jimenez didn't know why they were destroyed necessarily. And so the government asked, did you find this unusual? Has he seen evidence destroyed? And then there was this huge objection. The defense did not like where this was going because I think it kind of implied that maybe he had somebody within LAPD kind of figured this evidence, destroy this evidence. And there was a huge sidebar. It lasted for a few minutes.
Before we even get into that,
yeah,
I saw some reporting indicated that a LAPD officer had destroyed the fingerprint card. Is that inaccurate?
Yes, no, that's not inaccurate. And LAPD did destroy the fingerprint card. It wasn't ordered by Officer Jimenez or investigator Jimenez.
We just don't know why that would have been.
We don't know why it was. And so that was the big moment that they were talking about. It's like, why was this evidence destroyed? And why did it go away? Why was this so unusual? And have you seen anything like this before? And Jimenez said this wasn't his call to make.
So now it goes into sidebar. Obviously, there's a big objection. What happened during the sidebar?
Well, the sidebar.
So meaning the jury's not there.
Yeah. Well, actually, the jury is there for the sidebar. So then we hear this. We hear this loud kind of staticky noise going off. So we're not hearing what both parties are talking about. However, there is a court reporter over there kind of transcribing everything. And so the sidebar lasted for a few minutes. And I myself was wondering what's going on. So I know the jury must have been wondering what is about to happen, what's going on. Then all of a sudden there's a break. They take pretty much like a nice long morning break, I should say. And then there were a lot of arguments outside the jury.
That's what I was
Yes.
I know they went to a break.
Yes.
And that's where it really heated up.
That's where.
And the judge wasn't happy.
Oh, the judge was not happy at all. And so the government was trying to argue essentially that they were entitled to know what the steps were taken in this investigation because they knew the defense was going to kind of attack the credibility of the investigation. And essentially, they were saying that the outcome of the destruction of fingerprints means that no further steps were taken. The judge says that he didn't think it was necessarily that there was prejudice going on. However, Mark Agnifilo goes up there and he's giving his argument and he's saying it's absolutely prejudicial. He said what the government has done is outrageous. And he made a note to say that he doesn't call things outrageous very often, but he sounded very upset. He said that the government was implying that someone within the courtroom was essentially having something to do with the destruction of his fingerprints. I think he was kind of insinuating that he meant his client for the most part. And the government kind of came back and they were like, the defense is going to attack the credibility of the investigation. Investigator Jimenez didn't authorize the destruction of the fingerprint card. This is an important fact for the jury to consider, and it's absolutely relevant. So then I think tensions were a little hot during this moment. So then we take another break, and this is for all parties, the defense, the prosecution, us in the gallery, all that. And so then they come back from this break. The judge said that he will strike from the record the fingerprint card and the destruction of them and that the jury will disregard it. But Shapiro stood up, and it's interesting sometimes, Jesse, because sometimes it's not the same attorney always making these arguments outside the presence of the jury. Sometimes you have Estevao chiming in or Estevao chiming in. You have Donaldson chiming in. You have Shapiro chiming in. You have Agnifilo chiming in. Sometimes you just never know where it's going to go. But in this case, Shapiro stands up. Alexandra Shapiro stands up and she says, we're moving for a mistrial for prosecutorial misconduct. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And so she was explaining there's this conspiracy theory that Mr. Combs can buy his way out of charges. So they were kind of even taking it back to jury selection.
Right, because that's what prospective jurors had said.
Exactly. And so she had said that the government asked questions about authorizing destruction of fingerprints. She said there's no way to unring this bell, even if the record is struck, because the jury might still remember it even now. I remember it very clearly, very vividly. And so the defense is kind of arguing that the government should have stopped when they just said that the fingerprint cards were destroyed. They should have just stopped there. They shouldn't have continued insinuating in a way that they were ordered to be destroyed by a particular someone. And so the government comes back. They say there was no prejudice that should cause or would cause a mistrial, and that the government needed to elicit this testimony about the fingerprints. And they said that they came to a resolution that they're okay with it just being struck from the record. And so the judge denied the application for a mistrial and said that the jury will just disregard the statements from the attorneys as evidence. And we'll disregard the statement.
That's why I like sidebars.
By
They be giving you
Officer
the news.
Lance Jimenez, or excuse me, Investigator Lance Jimenez.
And that's what he told the jury to disregard it. Easier said than done. We'll see if they disregard it. And also, you have to wonder if the jury will make that connection that the defense made about, you know, who might have been responsible or behind the evidence being destroyed. And by the way, there might not be anything nefarious about this. Jimenez was cross-examined, though, by the defense. What were some of the highlights there?
Yeah, so he was cross-examined by Mark Agnifilo. And so starting off the bat, we kind of see the inside of the Porsche where you can see the bottle. They, of course, are going to touch upon the fact that this DNA profile came back as a female. And that's what Agnifilo went with. The report says it's female DNA on the bottle. Jimenez says, yes, you sent the glass bottle for DNA testing. He said he didn't. Jimenez didn't know who had actually sent this report in and maintains that it was just a partial DNA profile that was found. And obviously, that's kind of a buzz as far as DNA and just everything that works with that. But then the defense is asking whether or not they reached out to Capricorn Clark. And I thought maybe this was a moment they were going to try to insinuate that maybe she was the one who was behind, or maybe she was the one who had the partial DNA, female DNA profile on that bottle. And so then Jimenez said that he didn't recall when the report came back. We see another exhibit photo of the glass bottle inside the Porsche. And Agnifilo is asking about his opinion on whether the glass bottle was the cause of the fire. And Jimenez had, verified yes. And so there were other moments where you had seen a glove even in the back seat of the car. And it was interesting because I think the defense was implying that, why didn't you test this glove for DNA? Jimenez had said that he believed that the glove belonged to the owner of the vehicle, obviously the owner of the vehicle being Kid Cudi, so didn't think it was relevant or necessary to turn it back for evidence. But Mark Agnifilo was really like, well, where's the other glove? Do you know where the other glove is? And if the bottle is super hot, wouldn't you be the one using a glove if you were going to do something like this? And Jimenez kind of came back and said, well, not really. And Agnifilo was like, well, wouldn't the bottle be hot? And he said no, because the cloth would be on fire. And I felt like Agnifilo was trying to argue with a fire expert, an arson investigator.
Basically trying to make the idea that it was a sloppy investigation.
Yes.
You don't really know
exactly
who set fire to this car, and
yes,
let alone Sean Combs or an associate of his.
Yes, exactly. And so we're seeing more exhibit photos, kind of the same photos that we were seeing under duress, the roof cut out, Kid Cudi's Porsche a number of times, just whether or not if he could tell that the damage was from the heat and the heat actually rose from the vehicle. Then the defense kind of gets into Kid Cudi's other Porsche and whether or not the other Porsche should have been included in the report. And he said it wasn't relevant because this particular other Porsche was in the garage, and he said that it's like adding furniture in the home in the report, that it wasn't necessary for him to include that. And so I think as far as the cross ending, Agnifilo was really kind of honing in on who investigator Jimenez had spoken to as far as just reaching out to as far as potential witnesses or suspects and that type of thing. And so investigator Jimenez did say that he had reached out to both Cassie and Capricorn Clark, because when Capricorn Clark had testified, she had said that she didn't respond to an investigator's call, something that Jimenez verified, that he called a bunch of times. He went over and did door knocking to her house. He had got a hold of her, in quotations, one time, and it was actually her brother who answered the phone, and her brother told investigator Jimenez to leave her alone. And that was just kind of where we got to, just as far as Capricorn Clark is concerned. But as far as Cassie is concerned, it was the same thing, reaching out to her, trying to find her address. Investigator Jimenez said that he even got in touch with Cassie's father, and that Cassie's father was going to try to get her in touch with the investigator. But I think it also goes to show that no one was very cooperative in this investigation, something that I think also was verified under Capricorn Clark's testimony, Kid Cudi's testimony, where it was just kind of like, we're not going to talk about this with investigators. We're not going to talk about this with officials. We're going to keep our mouth shut and not cooperate with this investigation.
You also wonder if that helps the prosecution, because a big theme of this is, why didn't Cassie step forward? Why didn't she speak? Why didn't she report anything? And the idea is the power, the control, the influence, the resources of Sean Combs. Are you really going to go after him? I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the testimony from Dawn Richard about her witnessing Cassie being beaten by Combs in front of high-powered celebrities and no one steps in, that's an important consideration to think about. Well, what could Cassie do in that position? The power dynamic. So I wonder what the jury takes away from this. But okay, so it was a lot about Kid Cudi.
Yes.
But
so what y'all actually think? Do y'all think Diddy gonna get found guilty of this shit? So basically, what they saying is they made it seem like Diddy's just this powerful person. He's got the police destroying your evidence and all that type shit. So the judge agreed to throw that out. Diddy moved for the whole goddamn, a lot of testimony to move out. They didn't go for that. His defense stepped up with a brave move and asked for a mistrial. The judge didn't agree with it. Nah, Diddy back fighting. But I think what y'all think, just in the comments, real quick question in the comments. If you really tapping in there, you'd really listen. Do you think Diddy guilty or not guilty? You know what I mean? One person, shout out to Pro's Prophet, he said not guilty for Rico. That's one person. Do you guys think Diddy is guilty or not guilty? I want to know in the comment box, because like I said, right now this thing is going 50-50. You know what I mean? And I haven't heard in the last 12 days of the trial. Today is 12, but 11 days of the trial. You know what I mean? I've been seeing a fight. You know what I mean? It's sort of like Winky Wright fighting somebody. But I haven't seen the defense come with a yet. You know what I'm saying? The prosecutors been coming strong. And then some of these, witnesses on the stand, I don't believe them. You know what I mean? Their stories are conflicted, but I'm not there. And it's crazy when you just can't watch this shit on court TV like we could watch the Young Thug trial and numerous of trials that we've seen on court TV. We cannot watch this and vividly see this to take our own. So all we can do is do notes, and some of these news station actually got the court transcripts from day in and day out, the more bigger ones. So man, when the actual transcripts really drop and we really get to read line for line what's going on, I don't know. I'm kind of scared for Diddy. You know what I mean? Because now it got me in one of these things. I heard about men in Baltimore City beating the feds, you know what I mean, once in the blue. I heard about men getting good deals and not going away for the rest of their life. Then I heard about more men being crucified. So where I'm from, the feds in the U.S. court system put the worst fear a person could, see, because that courtroom got more bodies than a cemetery. It's still men just returning from them courtrooms from the 70s, 80s, 90s, beginning of the 2000s. So that's not a courtroom that, play a whole bunch of games. So I'm scared for Diddy. But again, from day one, I remember, doing the journalism, we were tripping off of it. It was more like when I first started reporting on the Diddy thing, it was more like a funny type thing, because you couldn't believe it. I didn't know it was going to go this far. Then I seen the raids and then everything. Then I heard things. And, we go off for us as humans. We go off the first thing. Oh, I want to become the top. But as I dig deeper into the crates of it, I said to myself, 80% of the stuff that they accusing Diddy of, I don't believe. And I still stand with that. But it's that 20% that I said that, yeah, Diddy, the baby or the nasties, the orgies and all that stuff, you into that. But should you be found guilty and go to jail for your sexual preferences? I don't think so. You know what I mean? I don't think so. We live in America. It's the free world. But when you come to holding somebody beyond a will and doing all this stuff, as a man, as a grown man, myself, a grown man, I say, when it get to the domestic stuff with him and Cassie, an older guy messing with a younger chick, you know what I mean? I know that could be different. Sex, money, and drugs could be a big thing. Fame mixed in it with somebody chasing the ideal for fame out of this is crazy work. And like I said, no man should put his hands on a woman, and no woman should put their hands on a man. I thought it was a weird relationship anyway, a 38-year-old man dealing with a 19-year-old woman. But hey, to each his own. They say once you're 18, you're grown, you can do what you want to do. But one thing that I do not stand on and I do not respect, if I'm in it, like, bro, if I'm in a house and they wind up in there, right? It's a bunch of stuff in there and I got something in there, man, I'm man enough to take what belongs to me. You get what I'm saying? If everything in the house I was into and involved in, and I'm involved in it and we got to fight it. This is a difference. One thing that I've learned in the beginning of this trial, that Cassie was involved in a lot of stuff that Diddy was involved in, and she liked it and she loved it and she supported. One thing that got me, if I was a juror, that you said he baked you, and then a couple weeks later you had consensual sex. One thing I would think as a juror, like you had different boyfriends and you got away from this monster and you continuously came back. You know what I mean? It has been testimony that, from one person that you were enjoying the times here. All I'm saying is no man should be putting their hands on a woman, and what he did on camera was unacceptable and out of order. And if you sued them for that, cool. But all this stuff that you was enjoying and kicking it with, it ain't right. We can't all be throwing bottles and then get caught. And then I say, I ain't throw the bottle first. Man, it don't matter who threw the bottle first. You got caught throwing the bottles, at the end of the day. So, and then the other guy that come on the stand and ask for immunity and getting all this, immunity, I can't trust him. That's what I would think. I can't trust you, boy. You already, you telling to get off on something. I just can't trust you. You might be telling the truth, but I can't trust you because you getting something out of it to cooperate. If you wasn't getting nothing out of it, you wouldn't cooperate. So how can I trust that? You know what I mean? But some people have got on the stand out of the few people, and now their stories are starting to be, making sense together. So that's what I say. You know what I mean with it. You know what I mean? So my opinion is just that it's a 50-50 toss up. And I'm worried for the brother, you know what I mean? Just speaking on just a black man. Is it true that because of the Ciroc situation, was he really this type of creep? I don't know. You know what I mean? He knows, the people that was involved knows, and the law knows. We know that. But we are entitled to our opinion. In my opinion, right now, I honestly believe, I said to you, 80% of that shit, that people was beyond their will and this man was cool. I don't believe that. 20% of the shit, I do believe. 80%, I don't. That's just where I'm at. So if I was a juror of today, it will probably be a not guilty verdict today in day 12. That's it. I'm not saying, day 20, my decision might could change. Because I'm not lopsided. I'm balanced. I'm a balanced person. Hey, either you did it or you didn't. Either you guilty or you innocent. I ain't in between. You know what I mean? I don't play them type of games. So when I give my opinion, it's my honest opinion from my heart with the small research that I do. And you don't have to be a bookworm to see what's going on because it's on every channel. They talk about it every day. So what I do is I listen to numerous of channels and I listen to it and I think about it and then I give my opinion to my 5,000 plus. Shout out to the 5,000 plus subscribers on our way to 6K. I'm so proud of me. Almost 7 years in the game on YouTube, and I'm fighting to build this channel, man. I'm gonna get more uploads and get back to the interviews. Please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. But that's my opinion. The Larry Hoover situation. My opinion on this: Larry Hoover served 52 years in prison. Larry Hoover, 74 years old. You know what I'm saying? If y'all worried about Larry Hoover being a threat to Chicago and messing up the Chicago streets, then grant him parole and extradite him out to town. Say you can't live in Illinois. Whatever you do, you can't live in Illinois. But get a man a try. Andrew and Tristan Tate, and it's just like Diddy and so many other men. It's crazy when you are in trouble for anything having to do with intercourse. That's bananas. Y'all got too much money to be holding people beyond their will. Y'all got too much money. I'm not saying that these guys did it. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Andrew Tate. You know what I'm saying? His input on life, I respect. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm an 80% person. You know what I'm saying? 80% of the shit he be talking make good sense. Good goddamn sense. 20%, I bet you're different on it. But 80% he got me. But they out the country. And out the country being convicted of certain charges is bananas. It's beyond crazy. It's beyond reality. But I will honestly say to you, straight up say to you, if the men didn't do that shit, that is a tough pillow to swallow. Saying you bait somebody, assaulted somebody, held somebody beyond their will, that's fucked up. That is a horrific and heroic and a crazy crime against humanity when you do that to somebody. So you got to burn in jail. You got to face the consequences if you did it. If you didn't do it, I think your accuser should face the same consequences you face. If you were found guilty, your accuser should face those same consequences for lying. Honest to God, bro. They should. If they find you not guilty, right? That means that the jury didn't believe nobody. Now the charges need to be pressed against the victim because you're lied. We caught you in a lie. This is a serious lie, and you should pay a serious consequence for that. Now, I mean, I don't think a victim for lying should just do the rest of their life in jail. No, but they should feel it. You know what I mean? Hey, you're gonna get this life sentence what he was gonna get, and we'll bring you back to court in 5 years. And then let him go. They'll never lie again. Let them see how I feel. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, bro. And just because a person get found guilty by his 12 of his peers doesn't mean they was acting guilty of the crime. We seeing over and over on TV more people giving their time back because they was falsely accused in the 90s, the 80s, or 70s. So I don't know. But my own opinion is that if Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate were baping women and assaulting women and doing that ignorant stuff and holding women beyond their will, they deserve to rot in jail. If they didn't do that, their accusers deserve to spend time in jail for lying. Diddy, if these people was involved with Diddy, hanging out with Diddy, doing drugs and partying with Diddy and know they wasn't being held beyond their will, they should be sued and they should be charged, bruh. You know what I mean? Cassie was a victim in this. Definitely a domestic violence victim. But a victim of bape and assault, I don't think so. I think that she loved it. I think that she partied. And I think at some point she got tired of partying or she wanted more of him than a party. However it goes. But when you start partying and doing shit, bro, and you open up doors, bro, it's hard to close them, bro. It's like playing and being in a crowd of people that's joking all the time. And one day you got an attitude, you don't want to joke. It don't work like that. That usually lead into a fight. They usually lead into something. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it happens. Now, I mean, period, point blank, period. It fucking happens, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you justify it. So teach your daughters and teach your son. Don't engage in nothing that you don't want to be involved in later. Just don't engage in it. Then you won't have to worry about the consequences and do stuff like that. Listen, man, I thank everybody for tapping in. Please hit that notification, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. I got to get on the good foot, man. RDP vlog, man. I'm up with it in the morning, man. I'm grinding, getting back on my tippy toes and pushing. Shout out to almost 5,500 subscribers tapped in, man. On my way to 6K. The goal is to get to 10K before the 4th of July, man. No fuck shit, no fake shit, no foolishness. Anything you say can and will be used against you on the internet. RDP vlog.